Good morning, students. Welcome to the Social Studies class. Please turn on your cameras and turn off your microphones. Okay. Um, Now I'm gonna take a list and then continue. Okay. Ayala.
Presente.
Cárdenas.
Presente, Licen.
Chicaiza.
Presente, Licen.
Chicaiza Milán. Chicaiza Eric. Eric.
Presente, Licen.
Chimbolema. Jiménez. Maisincho. Marcosita. Paucar.
Presente, Licen.
¿Verdad? Simbaña Isaac.
Presente, Licen.
Simbaña Kevin.
Presente, Licen.
Topón. Topón. Uciña.
Presente, Licen.
Villamar. Y Zurita.
Presente, Licen.
Thank you. Thank you with all students. Okay, we're gonna continue with the class. And then we have to study now about popular culture. And then in Ecuador, we have some cultures that form an identity of Ecuadorians. Popular culture is a designation that contrasts with others, such as elite or official culture. Entonces nosotros podemos decir que la designación de cultura, espérenme un segundito que acaban de entrar la señorita Villamar y Marcosito. Ya, la definición de cultura o designación de cultura es un contraste con otras personas. Entonces es muy importante diferenciar entre varios términos. It is important to differentiate between these terms when discussing popular culture. Mass culture, popular culture, and folklore. Entonces nosotros debemos diferenciar entre diferentes aspectos, como la masa cultural, la cultura popular y también el folclore. In here you have two pictures or one picture with two people that she says, have you heard of any cultural or traditional games? He says, sometimes in the festivals in Quito, there are wooden car races, and I have played hopscotch and with a spinning top. And she says, I have been to craft fairs Are they part of popular culture? Entonces, ¿qué le dice ella? ¿Has escuchado sobre algún juego tradicional? Y él le responde, sometimes in festivals in Quito. Algunas veces los festivales en Quito son con coches de madera. ¿Se acuerdan las carreras de coches de madera que solían hacer? Bueno, mi papi dice que cuando él era chiquito, a él le gustaba hacer estos cochecitos de madera, ¿no? Y como él vivía en La Tola, allí ahí hay pues cuestas y unas bajadas súper pronunciadas, y ahí se ponían a hacer las carreras entre ellos, ¿no? Niños. And I have played hopscotch. Hopscotch means rayuela, yeah? And with a spinning top. ¿Sí han jugado a la rayuela ustedes?
Sí, dicen en el
Sí,
colegio.
dicen.
Sí. Ay, qué bueno. Ya les iba a decir, o solamente juegan Free Fire. Y también
El surit.
El chimbaño.
todos ustedes les gusta jugar. Bueno, a mí también me gustan los videojuegos, pero no hay que ser viciosos. Ya, y Spinning Top es el trompo, ¿no? Los trompos. Entonces, esos son juegos tradicionales. Coches de madera, rayuela y trompos. Entonces ella le dice, I have been to craft fairs. Yo he estado en ferias artesanales, dice. Are they part of popular culture? O sea, ella es extranjera y él es de aquí. Entonces dice, ¿son esas parte de la cultura popular? O sea, las ferias artesanales. ¿Ustedes qué creen? ¿Las ferias artesanales son parte de la cultura popular? What would you think about craft fairs? Yes, I think that is true because craft fairs is the most popular thing in all provinces. Es una parte popular, ¿sí? Es una actividad muy popular en muchas provincias, por no decirlo en todas. Craft fairs is a most popular activity in all provinces. Siempre hacen ferias artesanales, ¿no? Para presentar los productos. Okay, let's continue, okay? Okay, mass culture, this designation refers to cultural elements that have disseminated in all spaces of regions and siguen ingresando atrasados. Yeah. And locations, especially through the mass media. Millions of people are exposed to these cultural products, but if they originated in a dominant global culture, they are linked to forms of use and consumption in the global market. Some examples of mass culture are trendy pop music and ways of dressing that are the same all over the world. Jeans, brand name running, shoes, sweaters, and hoodies. Fast food, dependence of technology, and fashionable values and ideas originating in current hegemonic culture are others. ¿Cuáles son las masas culturales? Es cuando se impone ciertos patrones de cultura, se puede decir, y estos están ligados en la vestimenta, ¿sí? En los zapatos, en ciertos productos que se realizan, van impregnados esa característica cultural. También en la comida, y también en algunas ideas que forman parte de una hegemonía cultural de otros, ¿no? Por ejemplo, cuando nosotros vemos los jeans obviamente no son de aquí, pero es algo que es una prenda de vestir muy básica de todos, ¿no? Y se ha vuelto como un patrón cultural de muchas civilizaciones. Los tenis que les dicen o los zapatos, running shoes, zapatos de correr, por ejemplo, los Converse se convirtieron también en un icono como los jeans, ¿no? Así, de esa forma, se han ido introduciendo ciertas formas de cultura, ciertas formas de vestir, ciertas formas de vida en las civilizaciones. Pero, yéndonos hacia nuestros patrones culturales, no deberíamos perder estos iconos, ¿verdad? Por ejemplo, en lo que es comida tradicional, tenemos nosotros las guaguas de pan, la fanesca, tenemos la colada morada, el morocho con empanadas, por ejemplo, las fritadas, um, las tortillas con caucara, que son bastante famosas, no solamente en Cuenca, sino en muchos sitios de nuestro país, ¿no? En varias provincias. Las hacen de diferentes formas, pero a la final llevan los mismos ingredientes, ¿no? O casi todos los ingredientes. Las chuchucaras, que son famosísimas en la Tacunga. La forma de vestir. La forma de vestir también, por ejemplo, si ustedes van a Chimborazo, ustedes ven una forma de vestir bastante particular y es de esta forma, como ustedes ven aquí. La gente regularmente están con ponchos rojos, por lo general ellos usan ponchos rojos, por dentro sus camisas blancas y un pantalón café, negro o azul. Bueno, aquí están en un desfile, ¿sí? Con el Diablo Uma y están con los amarros, pero regularmente, bueno, como nosotros solíamos viajar todos los años bastante seguido a Cuenca, entonces nosotros pasamos siempre por Chimborazo y la vestimenta típica de diario es el poncho rojo, el sombrero y el pantalón oscuro. Puede ser el pantalón café, azul o negro. En los hombres. En las mujeres, el anaco, ¿verdad? Igual su poncho, su sombrero, el poncho por el frío, porque hace bastante frío allá. Entonces esa es la ropa típica, ¿sí? Que forma una culturalidad. Igual como nosotros podemos ver aquí, esta vestimenta de la costa, ¿sí? Esmeraldas, básicamente. Bueno, eso ya forma parte del folclore, porque no siempre se visten así, pero en Chimborazo sí, siempre se visten de esta manera, ¿ya? Siempre se visten con su poncho rojo. Es muy raro verles con un poncho de otro color y con sus sombreros. En Cuenca son las polleras, y sí, no toda la gente lo usa. Igual en la provincia del Cañar también es muy parecida a la ropa que utilizan en la Azuay, ¿no? Porque son dos provincias que están muy juntas, muy aledañas, a poco tiempo de distancia, entonces comparten muchas costumbres, son bastante parecidas. Entonces ahí las mujeres usan las polleras, usan sus sombreros de paja toquilla. Bueno, los hombres también usan los ponchos, no en específico el color rojo, pero sí usan los ponchos y el sombrero que siempre es tradicional, ¿no? Popular culture. Popular culture is recognized in contrast to elite culture. Elite culture has always been linked to European styles, classical music, universal literature, and the customs governed by a formal protocol. In Latin America, popular culture was originally limited to rural or marginalized spaces outside the cities, where it could flourish without the restrictions. imposed by the official culture. It has been inherited from our ancestors with their indigenous, African, and mestizo roots. Como les decía, una cultura popular está reconocida por la élite cultural que existe, un contraste cultural que existe. Esta élite cultural o contraste tiene siempre unos estilos diferentes, música, una literatura, costumbres y protocolos formales. Esto tanto en Europa, ¿sí?, como en otros continentes, países, existe, como les digo, la música clásica, por ejemplo, en Europa, ciertos estilos, literatura universal y costumbres de protocolos formales que ellos tienen. ¿Ya? Entonces, en Ecuador, asimismo, o en América Latina, existen culturas populares que son originales, ¿sí? Y están limitadas, pero a lo rural, ¿sí? Las ciudades se han modernizado y han dejado de lado mucha cultura, mucha riqueza cultural, pero la siguen conservando en la parte rural, en la parte más marginada, se sigue conservando esta culturalidad, incluso de la flora, ¿sí? Los ancestros usaban flores y hierbas para curar, todavía lo siguen haciendo. Entonces, esto forma parte de las raíces africanas, de las raíces mestizas y de las raíces indígenas, ¿sí? Toda esta riqueza cultural. Considering it from the perspective of power, popular culture is seen as a second-class culture that has not reached the level of elite culture or high culture, from the French meaning high culture, whose products are refinements used to be more valued. Only since the second half of the 20th century have we come to value popular culture. It has gained value as a cultural expression of the people not compared with others, and not a cultural product to be judged by Western standards. Entonces, estos estándares han ido cambiando a partir del siglo XX. Se han ido, sí, popularizando en ciertos sitios, pero se han ido perdiendo en otros. Entonces es algo que se ha querido rescatar, es por eso que en la Constitución del 2008 se ha contemplado que Ecuador es un país multinacional, multicultural y multiétnico, con lo cual se debe rescatar estas raíces para que no se pierdan. Todos los países y continentes, ¿sí?, tienen sus culturas, tienen sus raíces. Entonces, ¿por qué no rescatar nosotros nuestra riqueza cultural? ¿Qué es lo que hace que la gente extranjera admire? And then in Ecuador we have called folklore in everyday speech. The word folklore is linked to the concept of popular. Those cultural elements that belong to the people are folkloric. Folklore comes from two English terms, folk and lore. Folk is people and lore is tradition. Knowledge, wisdom. The term has evolved to include elements such as dance, music, popular literature, crafts, superstitions, and other customs that are transmitted orally. I'm sorry, superstitions, okay? Se me trabó la lengua. For this reason, the concept of popular is often reduced to folkloric or folk. These terms should not be considered synonyms. Ya. A ver, en cuestión del folclore, nosotros hablamos de un concepto bastante popular. Esos elementos vienen a hacer que la gente conserve el folclore. El folclore viene de dos términos, son términos ingleses, folk and lore, folk y lore. ¿Qué significa folk? Gente, lore, tradición, lore is tradition. Estos términos envuelven e incluyen elementos que son danzas, ¿sí? O bailes, música popular, literatura popular, artesanías, supersticiones y otros elementos y costumbres que transmiten este folclore. Por esta razón, el concepto de popular es a menudo reducido en folclore. Y estos términos deben ser considerados como sinónimos. Popular, sinónimo de folclore. Bien. Entonces, chicos, bueno, vamos a ver aquí. Oh, no. Ay, se me salió. Ya, aquí está. Déjenme ver si es que carga aquí. Esperemos que sí. Cultures, subcultures, and countercultures. And here we have extra reading. And then I want to we have a video, okay? And then please pay attention, okay?
How many cultures are there in the world? We've talked a lot about the things that make a culture, things like norms and symbols and languages. But we haven't really discussed how you lump all those little things together and say, yes, these are the things that belong together. These things are culture A, and these other things are culture B. So what are the rules of culture? Well, culture isn't just about nationality or the language you speak. You and another person can live in the same country and speak the same language and still have totally different cultural backgrounds. Within a single country, even within a single city, you see lots of different cultures, and each person's cultural background will be a mishmash of many different influences. So there really isn't and never will be a single agreed upon number of cultures that exist in the world. But that doesn't mean we can't recognize a culture and understand cultural patterns and cultural change and think about how different cultures contribute to the functioning of society. Are you more likely to spend your free time at a football game or at a modern art gallery? Do you watch NCIS or True Detective? Do you wear JCPenney or J.Crew? These distinctions and many more like them are just one way of distinguishing between cultural patterns in terms of social class. Because yes, class affects culture and vice versa. So one way of looking at culture is by examining distinctions between low culture and high culture. And okay, yeah, those are kind of gross sounding terms, but I want to be clear. High culture does not mean better culture. In fact, so-called low culture is also known as popular culture, which is exactly what it sounds like. Low or popular culture includes the cultural behaviors and ideas that are popular with most people in a society. High culture, meanwhile, refers to cultural patterns that distinguish a society's elite. You can sort of think of low culture versus high culture as the People's Choice Awards versus the Oscars. The Hunger Games probably weren't going to be winning Best Picture at the Oscars, but they were massive blockbusters, and the original movie was voted the best movie of 2012 by the People's Choice Awards. By contrast, the winner of Best Picture at the Oscars that same year was The Artist, a black and white silent film produced by a French production company. Very different movies, very different types of culture. Now, you can also look at how different types of cultural patterns work together. The Hunger Games and The Artist may appeal to different segments of society, but ultimately, they both fit into mainstream American media culture. Mainstream culture includes the cultural patterns that are broadly in line with the society's cultural ideals and values. And within any society, there are also subcultures. Cultural patterns that set apart a segment of a society's population. Take, for example, hipsters. They make up a cultural group that was formed around the idea of rejecting what was once considered cool in favor of a different type of cultural expression. Yeah, your beard and your fixed gear bike, or your bleach blonde hair and your thick frame glasses, they're all part of the material culture that signifies membership in an own specific subculture. But who decides what's mainstream and what's a subculture? I mean, the whole hipster thing has gone pretty mainstream at this point. Typically, cultural groups with the most power and societal influence get labeled the norm, and people with less power get relegated to subgroups. The US is a great example of this. In large part because of our history as a country of immigrants, the US is often thought of as a melting pot, a place where many cultures come together to form a single combined culture. But how accurate is that? After all, each subculture is unique, and they don't necessarily blend together into one big cohesive culture just because we share a country. And more importantly, some cultures are valued more than others in the US. For example, everyone gets Christmas off from school because Christian culture holds a privileged role in American society. That might not seem fair if you're a member of a subculture that isn't folded into me.
A ver, hasta aquí está hablando sobre los diferentes tipos de culturas que hay, desde las culturas más altas hasta las culturas más bajas. A las culturas más altas les dicen que son las culturas de élite y las culturas más bajas, bueno, las populares. Pero está haciendo una comparación entre ambas, que si las culturas de élite son mejores que las culturas más bajas o las populares, pues no es así. No es así porque en la riqueza que existe en las culturas populares existe mucho más valor, ¿sí? Entonces, hasta ahí estamos.
Mainstream culture. So it's not really a melting pot if one flavor is overpowering all the other flavors. And this brings me to another subject, how we judge other cultures and subcultures. Humans are judgmental, we just are. And we're extra judgmental when we see someone who acts differently than how we think people should act. Ethnocentrism is the practice of judging one culture by the standards of another. In recent decades, there's been growing recognition that Eurocentrism, or the preference for European cultural patterns, has influenced how history has been recorded and how we interpret the lives and ways of people from other cultures. So what if, rather than trying to melt all the cultures into one, we recognize each individual flavor? One way to do this is by focusing research on cultures that have historically gotten less attention. For example, Afrocentrism is a school of thought that recenters historical and sociological study on the contributions of Africans and African Americans. Another option is expanding and equalizing your focus. Instead of looking at behavior through the lens of your own culture, you can look at it through the lens of multiculturalism, a perspective that, rather than seeing society as a homogenous culture, recognizes cultural diversity while advocating for the equal standing of all cultural traditions. In this view, America is less a melting pot and more like a multicultural society. Still, the ways in which cultures and subcultures fit together, if at all, can vary depending on your school of thought as a sociologist. For example, from a structural functionalist perspective, cultures form to provide order and cohesiveness in a society. So in that view, a melting pot of cultures is a good thing. But a conflict theorist might see the interactions of subcultures differently. Prioritizing one subculture over another can create social inequalities and disenfranchise those who belong to cultures that are at odds with the mainstream. It's hard to encourage individual cultural identities without promoting divisiveness. In the US, at least, it's a constant struggle. But sometimes, subgroups can be more than simply different from mainstream culture. They can be an active opposition to it. This is what we call a counterculture. Countercultures push back on mainstream culture in an attempt to change how a society functions. Let's go to the thought bubble to take a trip back to one of the biggest countercultural periods of the 20th century, the 1960s. In the United States, the 1960s were rife with countercultures. It was a time of beatniks and hippies, of protests against the Vietnam War, and of protests for civil rights and women's liberation. These movements were often led by young people and were seen as a rebellion against the culture and values of older generations. This was the era of free love, where people embraced relationships outside of the traditionally heterosexual and monogamous cultural norms. Drug use, especially the use of psychedelic drugs, was heavily associated with this subculture and was celebrated in its popular culture. Think Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds or the Beat authors' books about acid trips. But this counterculture was also a pushback politically against mainstream culture. Many cornerstones of the politics of the American left have their origins in the counterculture of the 1960s. Anti-war, pro-environmentalism, pro-civil rights, feminism, LGBTQ equality. From the Stonewall riots to the Vietnam War protests, 60s counterculture was where many of these issues first reached the public consciousness. Thanks, Thought Bubble. So, countercultures can often act as catalysts for cultural change, especially if they get big enough to gain mainstream support. But cultures change all the time, with or without the pushback from subcultures and countercultures. And different parts of cultures change at different speeds. Sometimes we have what's called a cultural lag, where some cultural elements change more slowly than others. Take how education works, for example. In the US, we get the summer off from school. This is a holdover from when this was a more agricultural country and children needed to take time off during harvest. Today, there's no real reason for summer vacation other than that's what we've always done. So how does cultural change happen? Sometimes people invent new things that change culture. Cell phones, for example, have revolutionized not just how we make phone calls, but how we socialize and communicate. And inventions don't just have to be material. Ideas like about money or voting systems can also be invented and change a culture. People also discover new things. When European explorers first discovered tomatoes in Central America in the 1500s and brought them back to Europe, they completely changed the culture of food. What would pizza be without tomatoes? A third cause of cultural change comes from cultural diffusion.
Bien, entonces hasta aquí dice que todos los elementos que las personas, los científicos han ido descubriendo, ¿sí? Las nuevas formas de la agricultura, nuevos vegetales, nuevas frutas, todo eso va formando parte de una nueva cultura y se va sumando también a la cultura de cada país. Entonces, como por ejemplo la pizza es ya una cultura italiana que debe tener tomates, queso, etcétera. Entonces, asimismo, la comida tradicional se va haciendo parte de la cultura. Ahora, en Ecuador también hay comida tradicional y hay comida un poco más fusionada que también se va volviendo parte de nuestra cultura.
Which is how cultural traits spread from one culture to another. Just about everything we think of as classic American culture is actually borrowed and transformed from another culture. Burgers and fries, German and Belgian respectively. The American cowboy, an update on the Mexican vaquero. The ideals of liberty and justice for all enshrined in our founding documents, heavily influenced by French philosophers like Rousseau and Voltaire, and British philosophers like Hobbes and Locke, as well as by the Iroquois Confederacy and its ideas of representative democracy. Whether we're talking about material culture or symbolic culture, we're seeing more and more aspects of culture shared across nations and across oceans. As symbolic interactionists see it, all of society is about the shared reality, the shared culture that we create. As borders get thinner, the group of people who share a culture gets larger. Whether it's the hot dogs we get from Germany or the jazz and hip hop coming from African traditions, more and more cultures overlap as technology and globalization make our world just a little bit smaller. As our society becomes more global, the questions raised by two of our camps of sociology, structural functionalism and conflict theory, become even more pressing. Are the structural functionalists right? Does having a shared culture provide points of similarity that encourage cooperation and help societies function? Or does conflict theory have it right? Does culture divide us and benefit some members of society more than others? In the end, they're both kind of right. There will always be different ways of thinking and doing and living within a society, but culture is the tie that binds us together. Today we learned about different types of culture, like low culture and high culture. We looked at different ways of categorizing cultures into subcultures. We contrasted two different ways of looking at cultural diversity, ethnocentrism and multiculturalism. We discussed the role of countercultures and explored how cultural change happens. And lastly, we looked at a structural functionalist and a conflict theory perspective on what cultures mean for society. Crash Course Sociology is filmed in the Dr. Cheryl C. Kinney studio in Missoula, Montana, and it's made with the help of...
Ok. Entonces, chicos, bueno, la tarea será esta, ¿sí? Ya. What do you think when you hear the phrase popular culture? Tiene que contestar esa pregunta. Define what folklore means to you. Definir qué significa el folclore para usted. ¿Y qué usted piensa cuando escucha la frase cultura popular? Entonces responda aquí. Y además, la tarea es, if everyone produces culture, then is everything popular culture? Si alguien produce una cultura nueva, ¿no? Una cultura, entonces todas las cosas son cultura popular. Entonces eso va a ser para que usted piense y escriba en su cuaderno. Bien, ¿tienen alguna pregunta, chicos?
No, listen.
No está entendido. No, listo.
Listo. Ingresó el señor Motocita, sí está anotado. Ya. Entonces nos vemos el día de mañana. See you tomorrow. Have a nice day.
Hasta luego, listen.
Bye.
Hasta luego, Licen.
Que le vaya bien.